Welcome to May 8th, 2026. You know, we aren't just looking at a run-of-the-mill news recap today. We are doing a deep dive into 6 truly explosive, industry-shaking tech stories that all seemingly arrived at exactly the same time. I am so thrilled you're here with me to unpack this, because what we're looking at is nothing short of a paradigm shift. It's a shift that's going to totally redefine our digital infrastructure, our consumer rights, and even the concept of corporate leadership.
Okay, let's dive into this. On the surface, these 6 stories might just look like isolated headlines about gaming, hardware, and the internet, like a bunch of random events, right? But when we put the pieces together, they reveal a highly cohesive and, honestly, slightly cautionary tale about the unavoidable trade-offs of human progress. It's like a giant puzzle. The future has officially arrived today, and it is bringing some absolutely heavy compromises with it.
So here is the big question I want you to keep right in the back of your mind as we go through today's explainer. Are we ready to pay the ultimate price for tomorrow's technology? Because every massive digital leap forward we're about to look at is now demanding a steep and sometimes very uncomfortable sacrifice from us. All right, Section 1, Hardware versus Reality, the physical limits of digital perfection. Achieving true digital photorealism and absolute zero latency is coming at an extreme cost to our physical hardware limits and, for sure, our wallets. Activision just announced the requirements for the fall 2026 installment of Call of Duty, and it has officially crossed the 400GB threshold just for the base install alone. But it gets crazier. To support their new real-time texture streaming tech, which pulls 8K textures and ultra-high detail 3D models on the fly, the game demands a mandatory 100GB dedicated SSD cache partition. You literally have to format your drive exclusively for this game to avoid frame drops, and it strictly requires ultra-fast PCIe 4.0 NVMe speeds. We are looking at a single video game essentially acting like its own operating system, turning your local storage into a massive 500+ gigabyte cache memory. That is just wild. And this brilliantly illustrates the sheer staggering cost of this digital perfection. $8,600. That is the total estimated system price you would need right now to build a PC capable of running Samsung's newly unveiled Odyssey Z monitor. Let's actually break down that $8,600. Samsung's Odyssey Z is a 32-inch 4K micro-LED monitor boasting an unheard-of 1,000 Hz refresh rate. It's an absolute engineering marvel with 0.03 millisecond response times. But here is the massive catch. There isn't a single cable currently in existence that can handle that amount of data. No way! To run this $3,000 monitor, you need a $2,500 RTX 5090 graphics card, plus an $800 motherboard that actually has dual DisplayPort 2.1 connections. You literally have to run 2 separate cables simultaneously just to hit that 1,000 Hz mark. It's a staggering physical and financial bottleneck for a purely digital experience. Moving right along to Section 2, Convenience versus Privacy, winning the market, losing ourselves. Let's shift gears and focus on the direct consumer experience. We are suddenly seeing a landscape where we have to trade our personal privacy and our immersion just to get fair market access and sustainable game prices. Take a look at this. The scalper market price for that exact same RTX 5090 graphics card was sitting at $5,000. Today, it completely crashed down to $2,500. That is a 50% drop practically overnight. Why did this happen? Because Amazon and Walmart just implemented historic new hardware purchasing rules that have completely broken the AI bot networks that scalpers rely on. But, this victory creates a massive privacy debate. Here are the intense new anti-bot checkout requirements. To buy a flagship console like a PlayStation 6 or an RTX card, you must. Step 1. Stand in front of your camera for a live Amazon recognition face scan to prove you aren't a deepfake. Step 2. Enter your social security number to cross-reference government databases. And Step 3. Your device and IP are fingerprinted, locking you out of another purchase for 90 days. I really want you to imagine handing over your unchangeable biological data and your social security number to a mega retailer just so you can play a video game. This actually brings up a fantastic point from Dr. Sarah Chen over at MIT, which perfectly frames the severity of this compromise. She says, we're creating a honeypot of biometric data that will be irresistible to hackers. If this database is breached, you can't change your face like you change a password. And she hit the nail on the head. We finally defeated the scalping economy that has plagued us for years. But the trade-off? Handing over our most sensitive, unchangeable biological data to massive corporations. So the crucial point is this friction between corporate needs and consumer boundaries is bleeding directly into the games themselves. Epic Games just introduced dynamic in-game ads in Unreal Engine 5.5. This is designed to inject live, geo-targeted ads, think real Coca-Cola or Nike billboards, straight into $70 premium games. Now, from the developer's perspective, AAA games now cost $200 to $300 million to make. This ad revenue prevents base game prices from skyrocketing and funds long-term support. But from the gamer's perspective, it completely breaks the immersion of the world, forces corporate advertising into a product you already paid $70 for, and actively tracks your geographic and behavioral data just to serve those ads. It's a really uncomfortable balance between developer survival and gamer outrage.
All right, Section 3, Security and Leadership, when the machine takes over.
Let's zoom out to the macro level for a second to explore two terrifying events that happened today. They show exactly what happens when we surrender our physical infrastructure and our corporate leadership to autonomous machines. This afternoon, we witnessed a rapid, almost cinematic escalation. At 14:30 UTC, the TAT-14 submarine cable between New York and London was severed by autonomous underwater drones of unknown origin. Just 15 minutes later, the Hibernia Atlantic cable was cut. At 15 o'clock, the AC-1 cable went down. By 15:30, cloud gaming platforms in Europe and Eastern America entirely collapsed. And by 16 o'clock, NATO convened an emergency meeting. In under an hour, a coordinated deep-sea attack effectively waged war on the global internet.
500 milliseconds, half a second. That was the immediate ping spike for European users playing online games or using cloud platforms. And this single number perfectly illustrates a massive vulnerability. We live this totally wireless, quote-unquote, cloud-based lifestyle. Actually, scratch that. We don't even think about it as physical anymore. But this entire digital existence is completely dependent on physical fiber optic cables lying 3,500 meters underwater. When your game ping hits 500 milliseconds, it literally means there's an infrastructure war happening on the ocean floor. Now, what's really interesting about this concept of machines taking over is that it extends from the ocean floor right into the boardroom. In easily the most shocking news of the day, the board of directors at Activision Blizzard fired their human CEO, handed them a $50 million severance, and officially appointed an algorithm named Sentinel AI as their new chief executive officer. Sentinel is powered by an advanced Palantir artificial intelligence platform, and it is now actively making decisions on budgets, release dates, and human resources.
It's a chilling dichotomy. Look at this from the shareholder's perspective. This is a machine that instantly saves $50 million in management costs. It operates 24/7 with zero fatigue, processes market trends instantly, and is projecting an ROI improvement of 23%. Sounds great, right? But the immediate human cost is absolutely devastating. On day one, Sentinel generated a 47-page report citing efficiency metrics and instantly fired 1,200 human employees. It has no human bias, sure, but it also has absolutely zero human empathy or artistic soul in an industry built entirely on creativity and art. Let that sink in.
Which brings us to our final part. Section 4, the cost of our future, choosing our compromises.
We've covered a ton of ground today, but these isolated news events actually form a single, incredibly clear warning about the digital future we are actively building. We want photorealistic graphics, but it means bankrupting our local storage space. We demand scalper-free hardware markets, but achieving it means creating massive biometric honeypots of our faces and social security numbers. Developers need sustainable gain budgets, but they're balancing that against forcing live corporate ads into our premium games. We love the seamless convenience of the cloud, but it leaves us highly vulnerable to deep-sea cyber warfare. And corporations are chasing absolute efficiency, even if it means treating human leadership and empathy for an algorithm. Technology is no longer just a tool we use, guys. It is a defining force that is demanding massive compromises from all of us.
The real challenge going forward isn't choosing between good and bad technologies. It's choosing which of these sacrifices we can actually live with. So I leave you with this. Which of these futuristic trade-offs do you fear or perhaps welcome the most? Think about what you are truly willing to give up for the sake of tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and I really can't wait to see how we all navigate this future together. Catch you next time.